Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we will take a look at the most barbaric execution of all time called the Blood Eagle. Let's get into it. Imagine yourself as an ordinary citizen going about your daily life in a bustling town. Suddenly, a group of ferocious warriors storms in, demanding tribute from the townspeople, and when they don't receive what they want, they threaten to use a form of capital punishment that is both excruciating and terrifying. They talk about cutting open a victim's chest and removing their ribs to make a sort of macabre wingsuit. Then they spread the ribs like wings and paint the victim's back with a special mixture of tree sap and charcoal. This horrifying spectacle was known as the Blood Eagle, and it was a gruesome display of power and dominance. During the Viking Age, between the 8th and 11th centuries, the northern European raiders and conquerors were notorious for their acts of violence and bloodshed. The Vikings were known to raid and pillage across Europe, leaving a trail of destruction and death in their wake. However, one of the most terrifying aspects of Viking culture was their extreme form of capital punishment known as the Blood Eagle. In recent years, this brutal practice has been portrayed in popular culture such as the History Channel series Vikings. In the show, Ragnar Lothbrok, a legendary Viking warrior, is shown being subjected to this inhumane form of punishment after being captured by King Ella of Northumbria. According to the series, Ragnar was locked up for 3 days without food or water before his executioners began the process of carving him up. The show depicts Ragnar's chest being cut open and his ribs being removed to form wings, with his back then being decorated with a mixture of tree sap and charcoal. However, it is important to note that these graphic scenes are a work of fiction, and the show takes creative liberties with historical events. But the question remains, did this horrific practice actually take place during the Viking Age? To understand the Blood Eagle, it's essential to know more about Viking culture and their beliefs. Vikings held a deep connection to the natural world and believed that animals such as snakes, wolves, and eagles possessed supernatural abilities. Eagles were revered as symbols of power and freedom, and the Blood Eagle execution was seen as a way to honor these creatures. But why was it considered an honor? The Viking worldview was shaped by their pagan beliefs and their close relationship with nature. They saw animals as powerful beings that embodied certain qualities and characteristics that humans admired. Eagles, in particular, were highly respected because of their ability to fly and their keen eyesight. Vikings believed that eagles could see 4 miles and were thought to be able to spot prey from great distances. They also had the ability to soar high above the ground, which was seen as a metaphor for their ability to transcend the limitations of the human condition and reach new heights. As a result, eagles became symbols of power, freedom, and courage. In Viking culture, the Blood Eagle execution was intended to pay homage to these qualities and transform the victim into a symbol of the eagle. By removing the ribs and creating wings out of them, the executioners were essentially transforming the victim into a representation of the eagle. The victim's chest was cut open and the ribs were carefully removed and spread out to resemble wings. The back was then decorated with a mixture of tree sap and charcoal to resemble the feathers of an eagle. This transformation was meant to honor the eagle and its qualities, and the victim was seen as being elevated to a higher state of being as a result. However, there is a dark side to this supposed honor. There are few recorded instances of the Blood Eagle execution taking place. One of the most well-known accounts comes from the Icelandic sagas, which are a collection of medieval texts that recount the history and mythology of the Vikings. One saga tells a story of a Norwegian chieftain named Gohum Niold, who ruled in the 9th century. According to the saga, Galm was captured by his enemies and subjected to the Blood Eagle execution. In another account, a Swedish king named Erik the Victuous was said to have used the Blood Eagle against his enemies as a warning to other would-be challengers. While these stories may be true, they could also be examples of Viking propaganda meant to glorify their leaders and warn their enemies. It is important to note that many of the sources we have on the Vikings are written from the perspective of their enemies, such as the Anglo-Saxons and the French. These accounts often portray the Vikings in a negative light and may not accurately reflect their culture and beliefs. Another source of information on the Blood Eagle comes from archaeological evidence. In 1831, a runestone known as the Roke runestone was discovered in the village of Rack in Sweden. The inscription on the stone provides a detailed account of a battle that took place in the 10th century. The battle was fought between a coalition of Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian Vikings, and the forces of King Starbjorn, the strong of the Kingdom of Dublin. The inscription mentions that the Swedish king, who led the Viking forces, used the blood eagle execution against Styrbjorn as a form of retribution. However, this account is also problematic because it's difficult to verify the accuracy of the inscription. It could be that the Vikings themselves exaggerated the brutality of their enemies to make themselves look more heroic. Unfortunately, there is no physical evidence that has been found to support the existence of the blood eagle. No skeletal remains have been discovered with the telltale signs of this brutal execution. It is possible that the practice was largely symbolic and that the victims were instead killed in other ways. The appeal of the blood eagle as an execution method is understandable. It was a way to publicly humiliate and intimidate the victim while also demonstrating the power and dominance of the executioner. The eagle imagery added a sense of terror and awe to the spectacle, making it all the more effective as a means of dissuading others from challenging the authority of the Vikings. It's important to remember that the Vikings were not a monolithic group, and their beliefs and practices varied widely. While some Vikings may have believed in the pagan religion and its associated rituals, others may have converted to Christianity and rejected the blood eagle as a barbaric and inhumane practice. As we wrap up our exploration of the blood eagle, it's important to consider the broader context of Viking culture and history. The Vikings were not just a band of ruthless killers, but a complex society with a rich culture and belief system. Their worldview was shaped by their close relationship with nature and their reverence for animals such as eagles. The blood eagle execution was one way in which they paid homage to these beliefs, but it was by no means the only one. Despite the enduring image of the blood eagle in popular culture, it's important to remember that this brutal practice is a matter of debate among historians and archaeologists. There is no concrete evidence that it took place as depicted in fiction, and many of the accounts of it are often unreliable or exaggerated. Nonetheless, the blood eagle remains a fascinating and disturbing glimpse into the Viking worldview and their extreme methods of capital punishment. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. And if you have any thoughts or opinions on the blood eagle, please share them in the comments below. Thank you for watching.